Okay, here we are again.
Yeah. Yep.
Discussion 5. So this is on the chapter around antipsychotic medications. And we'll just start with the first question, with part 1, which is given the McCabe et al. Study, um, using your clinical judgment, experience, and expertise, do you agree or disagree? Why or why not? And what's important?
You don't have a strong reaction?
Well, I think that study really touched upon um, adherence to medication, antipsychotic medication, increased adherence, and um, uh, a strong therapeutic alliance. And I think that there are several factors that make for a strong alliance. And obviously, it's attunement and trust and compassion. I think also for me with psychosis and schizophrenia, I think a big one that comes up for me is destigmatization of symptoms. And there was even like a part in the text where it was talking about what was it? It was sort of like a reframing of symptoms. And I was really curious about that, sort of like working with the client to reframe what the symptoms are for themselves and name what's going on for themselves. So I thought that would be an important part. Just that, yeah, the destigmatizing factor. Um,
Yeah, it's interesting to have to think about adherence as like part of a treatment plan. And I think the questions for me are just like what is that accomplishing in terms of like the client's life and quality of life and recognizing that there are instances where people may really need antipsychotic medication and may just like not have the resources, not have the capacity to be with instances of psychosis, to get support from like community when those are happening, things like that. So um, thinking about that, and then I'm also, yeah, with what you're saying about destigmatization, just thinking about other potential models of, yeah, like other ways that people who experience psychosis can have like a high quality of life while experiencing psychosis. Um, I'm thinking about like the Icarus project, which was like this Mad Pride like online forum, and I, like I was reading this article from it that was, yeah, just like talking about some people's experiences of psychosis and the ways that they benefited from it, and like it talked about this one woman who like saw images in the clouds, and it was just like something that brought so much meaning to her life. So I'm thinking about just like, yeah, how do we hold like the holistic frame, recognize when psychosis is really like harming somebody, and also like, are there other ways to um, hold it?
yeah, like viewing psychosis, like having a client-centered view of that. Like, yeah, I was a part of like a forum, and there were the two presenters who were talking about schizophrenia were diagnosed with schizophrenia, and we're talking about their experiences, and that there's a wide range, there's a spectrum of a degree of yeah, how how bothersome people's psychosis is. And some people can live with it and it's manageable and it's not a problem, in fact welcomed, um, like you were talking about.
I think what stands out to me, well, is just that the stronger the therapeutic relation, the stronger the healing that clients might experience. But it feels particularly important, and as I understand it, and chime in if you think I'm understanding this inaccurately, that it seems like psychotropics are the first intervention for psychosis, specifically schizophrenia, at least that, and that's how the book framed it. And if it's the first intervention, and they almost all have side effects that are pretty deleterious, they're pretty terrible. Like I had so much compassion for people struggling with this, because it's like, you get so many challenges that it makes sense to me why people wouldn't want to adhere to their medication. And I feel like it can be pretty hard to tell someone that you're not doing what's supposed to be good for you, I imagine, supposed to be, or like what you're been prescribed. And so there was something about the stronger your relationship, the stronger that container, the more you can be like, dude, I'm suffering, like I can't, the more likely that your therapist can advocate on behalf of you to the community of practitioners, including your psychiatrist, maybe help you reframe, to your point, reframe the symptoms, or kind of notice if it's stigma versus something else that's kind of getting in the way of adherence. And so they become really a partner to you, is how I think of it, in solving kind of a potentially fraught relationship with a drug that's supposed to help in one way and makes you sick in another. So that's how I took the question, which is different than how you all took it. So maybe I interpreted it inaccurately, but I thought I would just share.
I think I was noticing when I was sharing, I was like, oh, I'm going a little bit off topic. So thank you for bringing us back a little bit. Also, I'm looking at time and thinking we should move on to the other section. We have 6 minutes left and 2 parts.
Okay, sounds good. So we are choosing to answer of the sub topics, or the, in the details, we're choosing to answer 1 and 4. So, discuss how to navigate situations where a patient's decision may conflict with their best interests, and that's sort of dovetailing really nicely, Golbie, with what you were just saying.
I'll say again what I said before we hit record, which is like, I'm always struck by how Aspen stands for informed consent and putting that patient-centered view. And so, this is a really tricky one, especially because I'm not a psychiatrist, so I won't be diagnosing and like have the knowledge and experience to be like, yes, I fundamentally believe that this will be good, better in terms of the benefits of this will outweigh the costs. So without that, it's like trusting the psychiatrist, but also hearing the patient's concerns and like trying to come up with potential alternatives if it really doesn't, like they really feel like they're not consenting to this, and they're losing their autonomy, and like what might be a way through. Is there a way to reframe it so that it doesn't feel coercive or oppressive? Is there a different path altogether that we just need to take so that the patient can kind of do the least kind of, I'm blanking on the phrase, but the least harmful intervention and try other options until kind of maybe they're not getting the outcome they want, and then try it. But there's really this idea of, not forcing is really big for me. I'll pause there. How do you two think about it?
I feel like you just stated it so beautifully.
Yeah, 100% agreed. Ditto. Yeah.
Yeah, like just really like trying to find a little bit more spaciousness around that decision, so it doesn't just feel like either you do it or you don't, and you have to like force them into one thing, but just really trying to help them like feel like the complexity of this decision, and just like holding that with them and all that comes up with it. Yeah.
And I think that's where the therapeutic relationship comes in, where it's like you know your client, hopefully you know your client well enough where, again, from what you said, you can advocate for them, and and have their best interests at heart. Whereas, you know, in the medical model, they may not have the time or the just in the structure have the capacity to even think about that. So yeah. So we can move on to 4. It's all about collaborative decision making. So it's highlight the importance of open dialogue and shared decision making between the treatment team and the patient, promoting transparency, respect, and the exploration of alternatives to medication. I think, yeah, some of the questions about this specific patient that I would bring to her care team, and like some of the things that I would be wanting to know, are, you know, like, what are her specific concerns with the medication side effects, and have those been addressed? And what is the severity of her symptoms? And, you know, like, what is the impact of those symptoms on her functioning? And we talked about, you know, like the kind of the spectrum of what people experience and how they're experiencing their psychosis. And you know, how important is it for Lisa to have those treated? And you know, how manageable is it for Lisa? And also, I guess it's like, what is Lisa's level of insight into her psychosis as well? I guess that's another part of it. You know, it's like, is she aware of the way that people perceive her in the world? I think those are all questions that I would have for her care team. And then, you know, and maybe like cultural and social perspectives on medication and being medicated, or her symptoms in general.
I love what you said about the specific concerns, because it also seems like because antipsychotics have so many side effects, they're often taken in conjunction with other medications that modulate the side effects. So maybe it could be a world in which, if she was clear about what the side effects that she's really most concerned about because of the impact that it have on her life or her sense of identity or self or something else, there could be, actually, not that I want to give someone a cocktail soup, but like there could be an approach people have taken in the past, whether it's psychopharmacologically or something else, that have modulated that particular side effect. So I think that's spot on.
Yeah, I was sort of looking ahead. I mean, her diagnoses are, it's bipolar and what, so I'm just, it was bipolar and schizophrenia, or bipolar and
With psychotic features.
bipolar with psychotic features. So I was wondering, like, I don't know, I was similarly kind of thinking about what other treatments there would be, and sort of skipping ahead to mood stabilizers and wondering, I mean, I'm not a psychiatrist, I don't know, and we haven't even gotten to mood stabilizers yet, but I was just, you know, really curious about what other options there might be for if she didn't want to go the route of an antipsychotic.
Well, I think we're coming up on time here, so any final comments?
Happy 4th of July! Celebrate America and all its complexities. Historic day of Supreme Court overturning.
That will end.